The evening was uneventful until my son, Alex, came into the living room with a look that spelled trouble. He hesitated at the door, clearly wrestling with whether to come in or turn back. I patted the sofa, encouraging him to sit beside me. "Dad, I need to show you something," Alex muttered, his voice strained. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages with shaking hands. The light from his screen cast ghostly shadows across his worried face. "What is it, Alex?" "You can tell me anything," I reassured him, though my heart was already pounding with the premonition of bad news. He stopped at a photo and turned the phone towards me. My breath caught in my throat. The image displayed was of a woman and a young man locked in a passionate embrace. The woman was unmistakably Lauren, my wife. The young man, a friend of Alex. I was at Jake's house, and Tom started bragging about his new girlfriend, then he showed us this. Alex's voice broke. I didn't believe it until I saw the photos. "It's Mom, Dad." The room spun around me as I took the phone from his hands. My wife's betrayal sliced through me sharper than any physical pain could. Anger, confusion, and heartbreak melded into a toxic cocktail that threatened to choke me. Why would she do this? I managed to croak out, staring at the damning evidence. "I don't know, Dad." "I'm sorry," Alex whispered, looking away. His shame was palpable, as if he had any part in this deceit. I stood abruptly, pacing back and forth. My mind raced with images of Lauren laughing, lying. How long had this been going on? How could she defile our marriage so carelessly? My skin crawled remembering how she'd been distant lately, always buried in her phone or coming home late with flimsy excuses that I never questioned. "I need to think, Alex. Can you give me a moment?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Alex nodded, silently retreating to his room. I watched him go, feeling the final thread of what I thought my life was unravel from around me. Alone, the weight of the revelation bore down on me, crushing. I had to confront her. I had to know why. But more than that, a cold, hard resolve settled in my chest. I had to make her pay. She had not only cheated on me, she had humiliated our family, using our son's circle of friends as her playground. This betrayal wouldn't go unanswered. My hands trembled as I dialed her number. "Lauren, we need to talk. Now." The line clicked as she picked up, her voice airy, unsuspecting. "Hey, love. I'll be home in an hour, stuck at." "It's over, Lauren." Alex showed me everything. My voice was steel, the words, a finality that even I hadn't fully comprehended until they were spoken. A silence fell over the line, heavy and suffocating. Then, a faint gasp, the shattering of her facade. I can explain, please." "Save it. We're done. I want you out of the house by tomorrow." I hung up, my heart pounding in my ears. The first move was made. The rest of my plan began to take shape, a plan to ensure she regretted her deception deeply and irrevocably. As the night grew darker, so did my thoughts. Revenge, cold and calculated, would be my new ally. As the first rays of dawn crept through the blinds, the night's turmoil gave way to a grim morning. I had spent hours pacing, planning, the bitter taste of betrayal lingering like a bad aftertaste. Today, Lauren would face the consequences of her actions. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls and texts from Lauren, each one pleading for a chance to explain, to talk. I ignored them all, my resolve as hard as the phone screen under my thumb. The sound of the front door creaking open cut through the quiet of the house. Footsteps, hesitant and slow, approached the living room. I stood, facing the entrance, my arms crossed, a barrier she could not charm her way through this time. Lauren appeared in the doorway, her eyes red, a mix of fear and desperation etched into her features. "Please, let me explain," she started, her voice trembling. "I saw the pictures, Lauren." "What's there to explain?" I cut her off, the coldness in my voice a stark contrast to the pain raging inside. "It's not what you think," she pleaded, taking a step forward, her hands reaching out as if to bridge the gap between us with a touch. I stepped back, unyielding. Save it. I want the truth. How long has this been going on? My demand was sharp, a blade poised at the heart of our marriage's carcass. Lauren flinched, the facade crumbling. It was a mistake, just a few weeks. It didn't mean anything. A mistake? I scoffed, the word bitter. You humiliated me, our son. You destroyed our family for a fling with a kid. She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. I'm so sorry. I was lost. I didn't mean to hurt you. The apology, meant to soothe, only fueled my anger. You're sorry? That's supposed to fix everything? I laughed, harsh and devoid of any real humor. It's too late for sorry. I want you out, Lauren. Out of my house, out of our lives. Lauren's sobs grew louder, but they were no longer my concern. My only focus was reclaiming my life, starting by removing her from it. I'll pack some things. I need some time to figure out where to go, she muttered between tears. You have until tonight. I'll be at Alex's basketball game this evening. I expect you gone by the time I return. My tone left no room for negotiation. As she hurriedly packed her belongings, I called a locksmith. Changing the locks was petty, perhaps, but necessary, a clear symbol of the finality of our split. Watching the locksmith work, the sound of the tumblers falling into place was cathartic, the click of each lock a closure of the chapters of our shared life. The house felt different as I prepared to leave for the game. Emptier, yes, but also free of the deceit that had tainted its walls. I locked the door behind me, the new key cold and unfamiliar in my hand, yet promising. At the game, I watched Alex play, his usual energy somewhat dampened. I cheered, making every effort to seem normal, to support him despite the chaos unraveling behind the scenes. After the game, he approached, his expression unreadable. Is Mom really gone? His voice was small, vulnerable. I nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. Yeah, buddy, she is. The ride home was quiet, the weight of the day settling around us like fog. As we pulled into the driveway, the absence of Lauren's car was the first visible sign of the new reality we were about to face together. Inside, the silence of the house echoed back at us, a stark reminder of the price of betrayal. But in this new quiet, there was also a hint of something else, freedom and the first steps toward healing. The house, now void of Lauren's presence, seemed to breathe a solemn air of liberation and loss. Alex and I navigated the first few days in a silent pact of trying to maintain normalcy, but the undercurrent of betrayal was palpable, affecting everything. As the days rolled on, my mind was consumed not only by the past betrayal, but also by a need for a more profound retribution. It wasn't enough for Lauren to be merely out of the house, the depth of her deception demanded a more fitting response. One evening, as I scrolled mindlessly through social media, an idea sparked when I stumbled upon a post from one of Lauren's longtime friends, bragging about a new business venture Lauren had apparently funded. Anger flared within me, our money that was meant for our family's future, now funneled into her friend's frivolous projects. I picked up my phone and dialed the number of a good friend and attorney, Mark. I need your help, I began, my voice steady with resolve. It's about Lauren and her recent activities. Mark was quick to respond. I'll look into it. If she's misused family funds, especially for this guy she's been seeing, there are legal steps we can take. Grateful for his efficiency, I hung up and planned my next move. Digging through our financial statements became my nightly routine, each discovery a piece of ammunition. A few days later, Mark called back with news. You were right, he confirmed. There's a trail of transactions leading directly to her friend's business, and some to Tom, the young man she was involved with. We can definitely use this. Armed with this information, I took a more drastic step, exposing her actions to her social circle. Crafting a careful email, I attached screenshots of the transactions and sent it to a select group of her friends and family. The subject line read simply, "The truth about Lauren." The fallout was immediate. Calls flooded in, some shocked, some in disbelief, while others expressed their disdain and disappointment towards Lauren. The community she valued so much was now seeing her in the unflattering light of her own actions. One evening, as Alex and I were finishing dinner, my phone rang. It was Lauren, her voice frantic and broken. "Why are you doing this? Everyone is turning their backs on me." "You did this to yourself, Lauren," I replied coldly, the hurt still fresh. "You're just upset that you're facing the consequences now." Her sobs over the phone were met with my indifferent silence. After a moment, she hung up, and the satisfaction of that closure washed over me, bitter and sweet. As days turned into weeks, more pieces fell into place. The business venture crumbled under the scrutiny, and her financial indiscretions became public knowledge. Lauren's life, once so polished and enviable, was unraveling. Alex watched all of this unfold with a complex mix of emotions. One night, he approached me quietly. "Dad, do you think it's enough now? Hasn't she lost enough?" His question caught me off guard. The revenge that had fueled me, giving me purpose in the wake of devastation, now seemed to be casting a shadow over the son I was trying to protect. "I don't know, Alex," I confessed, the weight of his words sinking in. "Maybe it is enough." We sat in silence, the sounds of the night whispering through the open window. The path of retribution I had chosen was undeniably satisfying, but Alex's words echoed a reminder of the cost of such satisfaction. As I looked at my son, the reality of what we both needed most, peace and a fresh start, became clearer than ever. Fresh start became public downfall had been a whirlwind of emotions and actions. The initial satisfaction of seeing her life unravel had gradually been overshadowed by a gnawing emptiness. Alex and I had settled into a new routine, trying to rebuild the fragments of our lives, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across our living room, my phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from Tom, Lauren's former lover and the catalyst of our downfall. The message was terse: "We need to talk." My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. Tom had been a quiet presence since Lauren left, keeping his distance as if to avoid the fallout. Why now? Curiosity mingled with residual anger as I decided to meet him, hoping for closure, or perhaps, answers. We agreed to meet at a secluded cafe on the outskirts of town. The night was unusually still as I drove, the streets deserted under the blanket of darkness. Pulling into the parking lot, I scanned the area and spotted Tom waiting by his car, looking uneasy. "Tom," I greeted, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. He glanced up, his expression guarded. "Thanks for meeting me." We sat across from each other, the tension palpable. I took a deep breath. "What do you want, Tom?" He ran a hand through his hair, clearly uncomfortable. "I need to tell you something about Lauren. Something she never mentioned." My interest piqued despite myself. "Go on." Tom hesitated, then leaned in closer. "Lauren wasn't just seeing me. She was involved with someone else too. Someone you'd never expect." Confusion furrowed my brow. "What are you saying?" Before Tom could respond, my phone buzzed again. A text from Lauren: "Meet me at our old place. We need to talk." Her name on the screen sent a chill down my spine. The old house, the one I had locked away after our separation. I glanced back at Tom, who looked equally alarmed. "What's going on, Tom?" He swallowed hard. Lauren was planning something bigger. She wanted to ensure her reputation was ruined beyond repair. She manipulated both of us to cover her tracks. The pieces began to fall into place. Lauren hadn't just betrayed me with Tom, she had orchestrated the entire scheme to eliminate any threats to her facade. Her cunning went deeper than I had imagined. Before I could process further, the cafe door swung open, and Lauren walked in, her presence commanding the room. Her eyes met mine, cold and calculating. "I see you've met Tom," she stated, her voice devoid of remorse. My fists clenched. I knew something was off. "What did you do, Lauren?" She smiled thinly. I did what I had to do. You and Tom were getting too close to discovering the truth. I couldn't let that happen. Anger surged through me. You used us both? For what? To save your own skin? Lauren's eyes darted to Tom, who remained silent. It wasn't just about you. There were others involved, people who could have exposed me if things hadn't gone as planned. What do you want? A punch to the gut. Lauren's betrayal was a masterclass in deception, pulling strings I hadn't even known existed. My mind raced, memories of subtle manipulations and unexplained tensions now making sense. Why are you here? I demanded, my voice trembling with rage. She leaned forward, her demeanor unshaken. I wanted to make sure everything was settled. No loose ends. I stood abruptly, knocking my chair back. Loose ends? You destroyed our lives, our family, and for what? Your pride? Lauren's expression hardened. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. Before I could react, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small vial. My instinct screamed danger. What are you doing? Without warning, she flung the vial towards me. I dodged instinctively, but not before a few drops splashed against my arm, burning with an unfamiliar sting. Pain radiated through me as I realized it was a sedative. Dazed but determined, I grabbed her wrist, pinning her against the table. You won't get away with this. She smirked, pulling out a hidden knife from her other pocket. Watch me. In that split second, everything changed. Tom acted without hesitation, tackling Lauren to the ground. The cafe erupted into chaos as patrons scrambled to escape the unfolding drama. Chairs clattered, and shouts filled the air. I struggled to free myself from Lauren's grip, adrenaline surging through every fiber of my being. The knife glinted under the harsh lighting, a menacing reminder of the lengths she would go to protect her secrets. Tom managed to wrestle the knife away, throwing it aside. Get away from him, Lauren, he shouted, fear and determination in his voice. Lauren, now on the defensive, tried to back away, but I held firm. This ends now. The confrontation reached a boiling point as Lauren, desperate and cornered, lunged at me again. But this time, my anger gave me strength. I pushed her back, forcing her to the floor. The impact was swift and final. Lauren lay there, defeated and vulnerable, her plans unraveled completely. Breathing heavily, I looked at Tom, who was catching his breath. What now? I asked, the weight of the moment sinking in. Lauren glared up at us, her facade shattered. You think this is over? There are more of us. You've just seen the tip of the iceberg. Before I could respond, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as emergency vehicles approached. The reality of the situation pressed in. Lauren's actions had not only destroyed her life, but were now leading to her capture. As the police arrived and handcuffed Lauren, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. The finality of her betrayal had left no room for reconciliation. Her deceit had cost us everything, and the path forward would be one of healing separate from the shadows of the past. Later that night, as Tom and I stood outside the now empty house, the cool night air a stark contrast to the heated confrontation earlier, I turned to him. Thank you for your honesty, Tom. I wish things could have been different. He nodded, a silent understanding passing between us. Me too. Take care of yourself and Alex. As he walked away, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. The betrayal had been a heavy burden, but facing it head-on had finally freed us from its grip. Lauren's legacy of deceit was over, and with it, the opportunity to rebuild our lives, untainted by the shadows of the past. Inside the house, I stood alone, the final chapter of this dark saga closing behind me. The road to healing would be long, but for the first time in months, there was a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The pain of betrayal had been met with unwavering resolve, and now, with the truth laid bare, it was time to move forward, separately, but stronger for the trials we had endured.